Hey guys, welcome back to our episode 3 of the Foundation of Greatness podcast. I'm excited about this. Coach Martens and I have chatted about 2 months about trying to schedule in this, but in the world that we're in right now, it's a random and constant change, right? That's a weird thing to put constant and change together, but that's what we're living in. So we finally were able to squeeze some time in, and I'm super excited about it. If you don't know who Coach Martens is, you will dial in today and he'll be a fantastic resource for you. He's a coach that's been around as long as I have, and that's awesome. And one that I've learned a lot from over the years as well. So as well as I do by now, that our podcast is unique and that we focus, yes, in the X's and O's of coaching, because that's what we do every day. But really the point of this podcast is to focus on the whys, the WHY. Why do we choose the X and O's that we do? And it really centers around 2 things: to build the program and unite a community. And I know that word unite and unified is going to come up several times tonight, so it'll be an interesting conversation. And our podcast follows a workout, and as any good strength coach. So our first section will be our warm-up or our prep phase, and that's how we get to know our coaches, because in our warm-ups, we get to know our athletes and what they're ready for. So I'm going to stop talking and allow Coach Marty Martens at East Kentwood High School in Michigan introduce himself and give us a little of the backstory. So how did you end up where you are? What's the story, Coach, of Coach Marty Martens?
Wow, that could take the whole hour and a half just talking about that in itself. But first of all, thanks for having me here. I'm super excited about it. Glad that we finally can get together like this. But I've been at East Kentwood for this is year 21, 30 years overall, and it really goes back to when I first got involved in coaching at a school, and I saw a school in Illinois. How they had a unified football program, and I saw what they did from the lower levels of football and how they were able to build this dynasty. And as I progressed my first year of teaching and being on my own, I went to a school that wasn't successful. And we took that idea of a unified football program and we brought that into strength and conditioning, which was missing and wasn't involved in the school where I was. And the combination of that idea of unified football with a unified strength program, I've been able to have some amazing experiences over 30 years' time, traveling around the country, getting a chance to see some of the top strength coaches in the industry, both from the football side, the Olympic side, men's and women's, and pick their brains to see what they do and build a unified program front at the schools where I've been, specifically at Kentwood the last 21 years, but then take that unification principle, idea, philosophy, curriculum on a coaching circuit and share our experiences, our growth and development, our trials, our errors, because gosh knows we've had a few errors along the way, and share with them our journey, my journey, and try to bring to them what we've been able to bring to our athletes, specifically here at East Kentwood High School. So it's been an amazing 30 years. This is an amazing profession that we're in. It's not often that I've gone home or I've had a bad day. 99% of the time you get done, you say, this is exactly what I was meant to do. And I'm thankful to be in an industry and a profession that I am and be able to share and to develop young people.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you come to the realization? I know at the end of the day, when it's right? That's an easy realization when you're going home and you're not upset. But when did you come to the realization early on, the younger coach, that this was the path to take? For me, I went through many incarnations. I was an athletic trainer, physical therapy. I was going to go different paths. And I remember running into Coach Chip Sigmund, legendary strength coach with the Charlotte Hornets. And I was like, man, that's what I want to do. What was it that, is there a moment? Maybe sometimes it doesn't. Is there a moment that kind of was like, wow, this is where I want to head?
I think for me, I was a Division I football basketball prospect out of high school, and I'd always been on the thin side. 6'5", 185 pounds, going to play Division I football, and I knew that the strength component, because we back in the mid '80s, early '80s, it was non-existent. We had the old universal machine that you went around, and so yeah, you remember those days?
Oh yeah, with the decline bench.
Yeah.
bench.
And most of the people watching this have no idea what we had. And so it was new. It was new. So, but when I went to Western Michigan University and played college football there, it changed me. I, beefed up to 255, 260 pounds, And what that did for me physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, the success that I had in high school, it steered me in a different direction. I was going to go into and be an accountant. What that did for me allowed me to have the successes that I did. I thought, this can do this for me. I know that I can take that same tool to other people and help to change their lives. And so it really was probably into my second or third year of college that I knew this was something I could give to other people to help them be successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always say the best thing in life is to be able to know why you get out of bed every morning. And if your answer is to pay bills or because I have to, you got to find it. You got to find something else, because life is too precious to be spent focused on that. So it's fantastic. I love that. And I think that's going to lead into some of the, again, that's the why right behind some of the X and O's that we're going to talk about. We're going to tie it up a little bit. We're going to go into some, we'll call the speed round. I'm going to shoot some questions at you, get 30-second answers back from you. It allows us to know you a little bit better in a unique way. Coaching mentor, your earliest coaching mentor that you can remember, someone you looked up to as a coach.
Wow. I'm gonna talk about the strength aspect of it, and that one again is a long-winded answer because I travel, as you know, all around the country, thousands and thousands of miles watching some of the top coaches. So for me, it's going to be multiple people that have really shaped me the last probably 10 or 15 years. You know, you got Mickey Moriarty and D'Antonio Burnett, Rick Court. You have oh geez, there's so many.
Put you on the spot.
Ken Manny and
nice.
Man, there's so many great coaches. I've gotten connected with Mike Gittleson and listened to his stories, and you just
great.
It's like I remember one time, Coach, I was coaching basketball in Hawaii, and I was with a man there named Leo Miller, and Leo Miller had been coaching at Nauset High School basketball for like 45 years. And he was a dear friend of Coach K at Army back in the day. And I roomed with him at this camp in Hawaii. And I remember, and he was an older gentleman. He was in his 70s then running this camp. And I was keeping him up till 3 or 4 in the morning, you know, getting a notebook out, just anything I could think about coaching and philosophy and technique and building relationships. And by the end of that 4 or 5 days, he's like, Coach, I'm ready to go back home. I need a vacation because you're keeping me up all night long, asking questions. But there's just so many, you know, the Chris Doyles and there's so many good ones. I can't nail it down to one. There's so many guys, so many men and women in the profession that have given me so many opportunities to help shape who I am, which helps to shape other young people.
That's fantastic. I know for me, you know, at the high school level, Kevin Vanderbush and Mike Nitka were highly influential on making me lean that way, because I was looking at a pro collegiate type career. And I know the whole switch for me from sports medicine into sports performance was meeting Vern Gambetta, and he radically kind of reversed the way I thought a little bit and thought, man, I need to think a little bit deeper than that. So there are always people along the way too that come into your life that constantly evolve that. So how about, what's your favorite lift or exercise, Coach? Your personal one.
Well, personal one, you know, for me being old now, I like the pitch shark, you know, where my body the way it is right now.
Yeah.
The pitch shark's a great training tool for me as an older gentleman getting into it. You know,
I love it. That's a great answer. I love it. No more needs to be said. That's fantastic. Yeah. What about your favorite food right now?
I'm a taco guy.
I
could eat tacos every day.
Now, you said you're a basketball and football player. What's your favorite sport?
Wow. To coach would be
anything.
Basketball.
Could be to watch, could be to coach, whatever.
Yeah, coaching, it would be, even though I played college Division I football, to coach would be basketball. There's something about still being able to help shift and shape the game with 10 people. Even though I've been playing college football, I never, as a coach, I didn't have the vision really to see 22 people make adjustments like some guys do. Some guys are amazing, and they can see all 22 players. I could watch my position and make adjustments, but I mean, I would love to say football. I'd love to get back out there and suit up and put the helmet and shoulder pads on again I'd probably be about 1 or 2 plays and I'd be done.
That would be the end of that.
Nice
Yeah, we'd have the
yeah.
trainers coming out for us.
Yes. Yeah.
I know you travel all over the place. What's the top book that you've learned from this year? Anything that comes to mind?
Oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart. I was just reading Legacy.
Yeah.
The
All
Australian
Blacks.
All Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. Yeah. I've
There's
been
so
able to
many
visit
great
over
little
there one
quotes.
time. Yeah, and it was shocking the culture that they have built.
That would be a bucket
That would be a
list.
trip you'd come on.
I would
work that
go
out.
back there
Australia
again.
and then New
I'm
Zealand.
going.
You and I need
Yeah,
to chat
I'm
later.
going.
We'll figure that out. How
Yeah.
about the best advice you ever received? Could be anything from anybody. Best advice you ever received.
Be firm, fair, and consistent.
Love it. Yeah.
Firm, fair, and consistent.
Fantastic.
I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, I think that sometimes I think it's hard to do for people, but I always try to stick to that: firm, fair, and consistent.
Yeah, I wish I had learned that earlier. I think I spent too much of my career being emotional. And sometimes you allow those things and then you're not consistent, right? When your mood can impact your response, it's not consistent. And most often, it's not going to be fair. It might be firm, but it's not going to be fair. Yeah. So the firm part, I think I had down. But if I had to go back and I had found a time machine, I think that advice would be powerful for a younger Coach Schofield to hear. What about your first job ever? What was the first job you ever held?
First job ever.
Not the profession, just first job.
My first job would have been I rode buses at a migrant program. I got up really early in Michigan. There's a lot of fruit farms and such around, and so I got up and rode the buses in the morning to help get the kids to summer school. And that was amazing. And that was an educational process that I stayed in. I was in with the kindergarten, first, second grade teacher, and I was a mentor. I was like a big teddy bear for them. And I can still remember, and I can still remember several of the kids' names and there's some funny stories related to that.
I can see how that would relate to where you're at today. That's awesome, man. I wasn't expecting that. How about your favorite teacher or subject when you were in high school?
My favorite teacher, probably obviously favorite subject was phys ed. Being an athletic person, I mean that was
a no-brainer.
It would probably be Coach Besco. I never had him as a coach. I played varsity basketball as a sophomore, and I missed him, but he was just one of the guys. Great mentor. Treated you right. You could go and talk to. Probably Coach Dirk Besco. And
awesome.
Definitely PE.
Is he still around? Do you know?
He is. He is. He retired a couple of years ago. His son is a basketball coach up at like Lake City, kind of north of here, and he retired and he's up helping his son coach varsity basketball there now.
Oh, that's outstanding. All right, I'll end with this one in our little speed round. Is if you weren't a strength and conditioning coach, what would you be?
Wow.
It's the hardest one.
You know what? I might be maybe real estate, something like that. I've got good people skills. Yeah. I think talking to people, and I could go in and I could be firm, fair, and consistent with that, and sell them something. Know that the house that they're getting I feel good about it. I'd be reputable, and I'd be good at it.
I like it. Very good. I would stumble on that question. That's our last one. Always people stumble because we spent so many years doing what we do. It's like, man, I don't know. All right. Hey, we're going to start getting into some X and O's now. We're going to get into our main session. And our tier one, the one we start with, is do no harm, which has a lot of implications today. And this question by no means is led on the COVID path. You can do it if you want. But really what we're asking here is, what do you do to prepare and protect your athletes on a daily basis? And I know you do some unique things, so this might open that up. But maybe share with us a little bit of your view and literally the application of how you prepare and protect your athletes.
So for us, I think it's all about our curriculum. You and I have talked. A college coach came in here maybe 2 springs ago, and again, we have 76 students at a time, 76 students in here an hour. We service 450 to 600 students a day in our unified strength and conditioning program. Well, this college coach that came in, when he came in, I come in and he's a pretty powerful guy. And I shook his hand. I said, Coach, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. It's awesome. But, I'll get with you in a minute. I want him to see what we do and how the classes run. It doesn't matter if he was there or if you came in, whoever it is, you'd see it on a daily basis. And how we go through our whole primer section. We have a series of exercises that we pair depending upon the number of students in a group, but there are 3 exercises or clusters, as it would be. We have 3 clusters of 3 exercises that we take our students through prior to getting into our core movement pattern. And I've kind of stole that term primer from another coach along the way, but like priming your engine back in the day when you and I were starting a lawnmower or whatever it might be, we'd have that primer ball and you'd pump the ball to get the gas from the gas tank to the carburetor. So when I pull on that cord, the way it's going to fire, the engine is going to go do what it's supposed to and work. And so for us, we're trying to prime the body, activate the central nervous system, get the blood flow to the muscles. So when we get ready to do that large muscle group work, or where muscles able to fire, we're able to do things, be successful, be efficient, be effective. But so we were going through, he saw us go through our 3 clusters of our 3 exercises, or our 3 exercises each, so 9 total primers, 2 sets each, 18 sets total prior to the core. And you've got, on my side of the room, we have, we'll say 38-ish kids actively moving at the exact same time, 3 different movement patterns, but it's all based upon position. So for example, we might have one person doing a shrug on the platform facing our facing the power rack. The other person's on the power rack facing the alley doing retractions. The third person's on the alley facing the front doing our stick series. And they've been taught all the movements and those things. And so we're counters here. And we could talk about why to counter, why not to counter. Is that good coaching? Is that bad coaching? We could get into why we do it, because I've done it the other way, where I would say, okay, here's what we are, have at it. It hasn't worked. When we started organizing in clusters over the last 8 to 10 years and leading them through, positioning them a certain way, having the flow so that we can go from A to B to C efficient, effectively. As a coach, I became a better coach right away because I could see everything. I knew what the 3 movements were. I had them positioned so that they were all, if I'm doing the stick series, they're all positioned in the exact same place in the room, facing the same way. The retractions are facing the exact same way in the room, facing the same way, all on my count. And as a coach, doing as long as we know what to look for. And I could see all 3 movements of 38 kids all at the exact same time. Now, I might not be able to say, or Schofield, that, I need you to retract your shoulder blades. I might, in between a count, I might say, retract your scabs, get your shoulder blades back. I might give a general coaching cue to the general population. Then at the end, I might specifically address you in between that movement pattern. But he got a chance to see us go through that, and we would get done, and then we'd say go from shrugs to retractions to sticks to shrugs, and we would get done with that cluster, and we would go to the next cluster of 3, and it's the exact same thing. We've got them positioned a certain way, doing the exercise work, they can flow efficient and effective, and we get done with about 15 to 20 minutes, and the kids they've done what they do every single day here. And they were getting ready to go to their cores, and he came up to me and he said, Coach, he goes, how do you do that? He goes, I've traveled all around the country, and I've never seen a weight room like that before. I've never seen it. He goes, when I go in to recruit, I see kids sitting on their phones, not actively engaged, skipping exercises, skipping sets. And I said, Coach, I don't know any other way than that. Our kids don't know any other way. But I said that there were 5 things that I think allow us to do what we're able to do at East Kentwood High School, to train as many kids as we do, and to be as efficient and effective as we are, and to get so much work volume done in a short amount of time, and to be consistent in terms of our development from head to toe, from anterior chain to posterior chain, that we're training the whole body. This is the best way to do it. But I said it's based upon a curriculum. We have a curriculum for how we're going to teach our kids. We have a scope and a sequence. We have developmental levels from Evo 1s to Evo 2s to veterans. We don't enable our kids. When I talk about being firm, fair, and consistent earlier, I think the biggest thing in this day and age with young people is that we've enabled them. We don't hold them accountable. And they want to be held accountable. They really do. They might not tell you that at the time, but we don't enable them. You know, we're gonna speak truths to them. We're gonna coach them up. You know, we're gonna tell them the things they're doing incorrectly. We'll fix it, and we're gonna give them positive praise when they do things the right way. And so I think those 5 things: the culture, scope, and sequence. We don't enable. We give them constructive criticism. We give them feedback, and then we give them positive praise. I said those things have allowed us to create a culture at East Kentwood High School that, you know, and we use that word culture. I know that word gets overused sometimes, but we really have created a culture here. Kids know what to expect when they come into the weight room. They know that those 5 things are important, and when they leave here, they're going to be better people for it.
Oh, that's outstanding, man. That right there.
That's a long-winded answer. That's a
no, it's outstanding. That right there is worth the whole podcast. I had a follow-up question, just from the application standpoint of you walking us through those primers. Where do you stand? Do you move around? Do you have an elevated platform? How do you observe that going around in your room?
It's a combination of the both. I'll be elevated sometimes. I'm always in the front. So when we do it, I'm always positioned in the front. They're always going to be facing towards the front, or, you know, the point of entrance for us, where my office is. So for the most part, they're facing towards the front of the room. I'll elevate sometimes. We have some old metal file boxes that we don't use anymore, you know.
The shin destroyers.
I'll elevate. Yeah. We call them shin biters. Yes.
Yeah.
That's another great subject in itself sometime to talk about that. But and then we'll move around. But I'm either in the front or the back. And you think about your positioning. You always when we program, the program is we're programming. I'm thinking about what the positioning is of me, but also the positioning of our students.
Yep.
So that way, there's a flow and a safety aspect to what we do, and that it's a combination of exercises that go along with our skeleton. I mean, we could talk about what our skeleton looks like also. I mean, we have in terms of how the programming works, but
yeah.
So
I think we'll dive in.
I'm either in the front. I'm either in the front or the back of the room, but it's purposeful, it's programmed, it's thought through, and it's the best thing we've done here. It's the best thing I've done as a coach. I did it the other way, and how many kids we would get through that time that would say, "Coach," I'd be like, "How are you done, Coach? You already did, you know, however many sets or however many." "Oh yeah, I'm done."
Yeah.
"You did that in like 2 minutes?" "Oh yeah, I did it all." I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
I see more kids now, and I'm a better coach now than I was 5 years ago, you know, 10 years ago, by how we structure things now and position our kids.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's the art of coaching. People use that word a lot, but I think there's a science to the art of coaching, right? So too often the younger coaches come out and they know how to program, man. They know exercises better than I'll ever know them. I mean, they're quote studies and angles and shin angles and telling me things that I don't know. But then when they stand in a room, they don't know where to stand, and they don't know where to position the other athletes. And then it becomes jumbled, and you can't coach, and you might have all this knowledge, but you have no application of it, and it becomes lost. So there's a value to teach the upcoming coaches. I think podcasts like this aren't just to hear people, but literally listen to some of the things that we were forced into. But today's day and age is a little different because information is so readily accessible. You don't have to travel thousands of miles. But when you don't make connections, and you don't see the art of coaching on a video. You can't pick that up no matter how many times you want to do it. In person is the only way you're going to pick that up. So I love hearing you say that. I love hearing you talk about programming and purposeful and positional, because I think those things don't get talked enough and a lot about. I think all kinds of other things are, but those things are powerful. So that's fantastic. Good stuff, Coach. Moving in, and I think we're going to dive into some of these structures. Moving in, maybe the skeletals. Our second tier, we talk about moving well, and it might be your lift structure if you're a tier guy, or it might be movement patterns, a squat, hinge, push, pull. How do you go build that skeleton out? What are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What are the things that you're looking from a movement standpoint? We'll dive into strength next, but from a movement standpoint, what are you trying to establish with your athletes, and how do you do that?
So for us coming in, we're going to bring every student in as if they know nothing. They don't know anything as it relates to strength and conditioning. So we'll pair them into 3 different levels. We have the Devo 1, which is our developmental level, which means it's the first time they've ever been in advanced PE before. Devo 2s or the developmental 2s means it's their second semester they've ever been with us. And then our veterans, which means you've been here 3 semesters or more in advanced PE. And if you come from another school and you've said, hey, I've done weight training, or I've done strength training, or I've done advanced PE in my class, we still bring in as Devo 1, because we've had so many of those kids over the course of time that are transferred here that they've said they've been in a class and it doesn't meet our standards. And so our biggest thing as we do that then is our programming is going to be a little bit different from our Devo 1s to our Devo 2s to the Devo 3s. Now, primers are going to be the same. When we look at our primers, if you want to call it your warm-ups or your prehabs, those aren't going to really be different. We're always going to follow a developmental phase for our primers for all of our kids. So when we come in and when we get into this, and again, where we are, if you were to ask Marty, what are you guys doing right now in terms of strength training? Are you in the weight room? Well, we're not. I couldn't tell you the real answer to that yet because we're still waiting to get clarification with the whole COVID process and things that just happened last week. Yep. But in a normal year, when we come in and we start, which we would have started this week, this really would have been, week 1. This would have been week 1 of being in our weight room. So week 1 of first semester, as we go through our primers, it doesn't matter if it's the Devo 1, the Devo 2, or the vet, there is a progression of primers that we follow along the way for everybody. It's going to be all developmental in nature. So for example, when we get into speed training, there's 3 things that we look for. And I'm going to kind of jump ahead and we can come back to it. But 3 things that we try to do on our linear speed rate. We work on elongating our stride. We work on our stride length, our stride frequency, and running straight. Those are the 3 things that we focus on here. Stride length for us, which involves elongating our stride. We go back to what we call the A position. And so that A position becomes a developmental part of our programming, not only in the weight room on our Mondays and Thursday lifts, but also on our linear speed day on Wednesday. They're going to hear A position 1,000,000 times over the course of 4 years, 5 years of being here with me. So we have a developmental progression. So when we do on Monday, we would start out with A position. Well, the following Monday is going to be A position with kickbacks. Monday after that, it might be A position combination, A position kickbacks with your eyes closed, or on a black balance pad, or on a blue disc. It might be A position the following week, with an elevated step, and stepping up elevated step to a kickback, which could then eventually lead into chew squats. But there's a whole process of things that we do, of movements that we do that build upon itself from A to Z. So that part doesn't change for us. We think it's important every single time that you come back into the class that we're going to follow the developmental progression on our primers from easiest to hardest, depending upon whatever those movement patterns might be. And which then for us leads into, you talked about what's the next thing we look for. Really, the next part is the hip hinge. We really try to get our kids to hip hinge, keep our knees over tops of our shoelaces, and not be a butt leader, not a knee leader. And the progression that we make, eventually going from our unilateral movements to bilateral movements to a front squat to a back squat. I mean, we have 2 players. One it's at Penn State right now, and one it's at Michigan State just in this last year. The one guy's a big offensive lineman at Michigan State. I'm in no hurry to put a bar in anybody's back. 0. And it took him until senior year before we back squatted with him. We did tons of hurdle work, dynamic hip movements. We did tons of unilateral movements, those progressions like I was kind of alluding to from the A's to the kickbacks and all those things. Eventually we got into the pitch arc. Pitch arc, I think, is a great tool. It was awesome for him. He went from that eventually to the pitch arc, eventually to a front squat, and finally in his senior year. We got them to back squat. We want our kids to be able to functionally move well, be great technicians. It's not about the weight, although outright we want to get strong, but it's about moving well. And then if they were to come to you, if you were a college coach, now when they come to you, I'm confident they're gonna arrive at your university. They're gonna have a great knowledge base. They're gonna be able to move well. You can take them and progress them in whatever direction you want, and I'm confident that they're gonna do an amazing job there for you.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. Awesome. What about like strength, KPIs for strength? Do you guys shoot for a squat, a deadlift, a clean, a bench? Are there any numbers that, I know you're not going to force it, like you just said, you're not in any rush to put a back squat on anybody, but do you go, is there a number you go from a front squat? Is there a rubric to your curriculum that you guide you on your strength development? Are there any numbers that you use as KPIs?
So let's take a step back. One of the things you asked me early on, what would be, you said, what was one lift that I do, but then also what would be my favorite lift if I were lifting? If I were lifting myself or teaching our athletes, I would go to one of the Olympic movements, whether it be a hang clean or power clean. However, we don't do those lifts here at East County High School anymore. It's a great another topic, but I kept going back and forth in my career, saying, man, it's an Olympic lift. I love the power clean. It's awesome. If there was only ever one lift I was going to do, that's the lift it would be. It would be a power clean, triple extension, explosive, multi-joint lift, head to toe, nose to toes, all, whatever verbiage you want to use in that. Then I kept going, man, I've got 13 to 18-year-olds in here, super complex, taking tons and tons of time. We weren't getting triple extension. We were moving the bar too slow. I was a young coach, and I think I got caught up with the numbers. And so one of my summers, I went around and I was quizzing every coach and said, do you Olympic lift, yes or no? If yes, why are you doing it? If no, why aren't you doing it? It was about a 60-40 split area where about 60% were doing it, 40% weren't. The 40% that weren't in college, it was based upon time. They were consumed on time. They only had so much time in the weight room. They could get more bang for the buck doing other movement patterns. Of the 60% that were, about 30% were only doing it because their college head coach wanted the number. So that's when I came back to Kentwood High School and said, that's where I feel it's a bigger lift than the multitude of 600 kids that I'm dealing with every single day. I can get more bang for my buck in that 40 to 45 minute window and get into triple extension and work those explosive movements. And so we got away from that lift, even though it hurt me, we got away from that lift and it kind of evolved into something different. Now, if you're a college athlete, guy or girl, towards the end of your career, we'll then introduce that. We'll still do, power shrugs or jump shrugs or, deadlift or trap bar jumps. We'll do progressions into the lift, but we don't catch it here.
Yeah. You're speaking my language. We when 90% of my population are not going to play sports at the next level, I'm not going to try to chase an exercise for those 90% that they may never do again. It doesn't make any sense. They probably don't have the athleticism to pull it off anyways. Now the other 10% is a different story. So one of our KPI lifts was one that you just mentioned. We trap bar deadlift jump and stole it from Mike Boyle, where we got those just jump mats and we had put our hands on our hips, give me a jump that day. All right. If it's 20 inches, now we're going to go 70 to 80% of that jump. And that you're going to put on as much weight as you can and stay in that 70 to 80% range. So 14 to 16 inches, you can put more weight on and stay in there with good form. Obviously that counts on anything. And we just did that and we found we were getting triple extension and we were jumping fast because we were keeping that parameter that they could do really easy and simple. And I thought, and that's easy to coach, right? It was easy for me to coach in a large situation. That's the other thing at a high school is when you have 76 people in the room and you don't have 27 interns, you got to coach that. And people were like, oh, you don't like Olympic lifting. I'm like, no, it's furthest from the truth. It's just what's going to be applicable to the situation we're in. So I love hearing that. I think that's fantastic. Like I said, you're speaking my language. You woke me up a little bit there, got me energized.
Yeah.
I love hearing someone that
That's a
I think that's a powerful moment to get the bigger picture, right? Because sometimes exactly what those coaches told you is true. They don't see the forest through the trees. They're doing it because a college coach wants it. And I'm like, how many kids you got going to college? Five. Five. What about the other 100? Oh, I didn't think of that.
yes.
We get lost in that
Yeah.
chase, right? Oh, that's awesome. All right, Coach. What about you mentioned linear speed? Do you do anything different for agility or anything like that that's unique? You mentioned, three things that you focused on in your linear speed, but what about all the other components, deceleration, change of direction, something like that? How do you incorporate some of that into your programming?
Awesome question. And we're, again, I guess a little bit different in terms of how we do things with dealing with the multitudes of kids and the fact that we do have a unified program. Doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, athlete or non-athlete, we're going to train everybody the exact same way, first through sixth hour and our seventh hour. Because our seventh hour, even though it's not a part of the day, I'm still going to call it seventh hour or after school because kids are still coming in. We're going to train them the exact same way. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to coach them up. We're going to follow our script. We're going to follow our skeleton. So as we've done that, we've trained so many people. My idea or my philosophy has been, I don't want to do what you're going to do. I want you to encourage your kids to sign up for advanced PE, to take certain pieces off of your plate, certain things that you don't have to do anymore. For example, the big part is the strength training aspect. And so if I can remove that from your to-do list, you can become a better coach and focus more on your X's and O's. So with that being said, the agility portion, I'm going to look at and say, you're going to do that in your practices. You're going to do that in your 3-man, your 4-man, your 7-man workouts. So we try to do the things that you are going to already do in practice that I don't need to do. I'm not going to do anything with cardio. We're not going to do any, 200s or 400s or mile, whatever. We're not going to do anything as it relates to that. We'll do a smidge with agility, not a lot. We'll do some ladder work and some rapid fire work, quick feet work as part of our primer within our warm-ups, prior to into our core movement pattern on the Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday or Friday. We don't do a lot of that on the linear speed day. We specifically work on running fast in a straight line, but we'll also incorporate deceleration. We'll talk about deceleration. We're going to decelerate half the distance of what we just ran. If we're going 40 yards, it's going to take us 40 yards to decelerate. We'll talk about those movement patterns, but it's all about our dynamic warm-up, continuing to build the dynamic warm-up into the 3 phases we talked about, elongating our stride frequency, running straight, and then we're going to do our build-ups, sprint work, and in combination with, push sleds or prowlers or pull sleds. And then we'll do our cool downs, but very, very little to do with our agility, nothing to do with cardio. We'll do some lateral movements, but again, just for me at East Kentwood, I'm not trying to duplicate what you're going to do as a coach. And then if I were, then I worry about overuse. God, they're doing all the extra stuff with me. Now they're doing that with you. So it's that fine line, that balance. The coaches know this is what we do. This is what we're going to focus in on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I love that. I think, especially today where kids are playing the same sport multiple seasons, right? When we grew up, baseball was, 3 months and that was it. And then you moved on to the next sport. But today it doesn't end. So one of my caveats as a coach has been, don't repeat what's repeatedly done. If you're going to throw the ball and that works the rotator cuff, why the heck am I doing rotator cuff work all the time? It just doesn't make any sense. Now there may be some time and you really want to work the rotator cuff, then pick up something heavy and walk with it. They don't repeatedly do that. And I'm probably going to get some strengthening from that, but don't repeat what is repeatedly done. That's where tendonitis, strains, stresses, labral tears, UCLs, in my opinion, that's where that comes from. Jumpers' knee, see, all kinds of knee issues in volleyball, and you look at what they're doing, and they're jumping, and they're doing plyometrics all the time, and that's all they do on the court. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? They do plenty on the court. They have like 100 jumps in practice, and you're going to add 100 more jumps? I always joke about it and say, listen, If we did what we did with rotator cuff and baseball, that would be the equivalent of me saying, okay, we're going to warm up today with 100 squats so that we can squat. And then when we're done squatting, we're going to do some air squats. You'd be like, hey, listen, Dr. Squat, enough squatting. But
Yeah.
that's what we do to our athletes. So I'm with you on that. I think as coaches, we just have to be smart with what we're doing and see the bigger picture, that when they're not with us, what are they doing too? And don't try to duplicate that. Because, by the way, you can't anyways. If you've ever been in this profession long enough, you think you prepare your athletes, the minute they put a helmet on or run on a basketball court, it's different. They're going to be gassed a little bit, and they have to do that. We don't want to take them away from doing that. I think that's awesome. All right, question. I want to finish our main topic and then give you your soapbox to finish with us. But the last topic I really kind of want to cover with you, I think, is the most important, especially in the profession of high school strength and conditioning, and that is Thrive. And it's what it is what do you do in your program? You mentioned culture, and I'm with you. It's an overused word, but let's just use it because people understand what that means. Culture, climate, whatever you want to term. But what do you do to allow your athletes to be the next best version of themselves? And you're never going to be the best version of ourselves, hopefully, because we'll continue to evolve as coaches, we do, as humans, we do, as men and women do in the culture of the world that we're living in right now is ripe for confusion. It's ripe for change. It's ripe for questioning, but it's also ripe for growth. So what are you doing to help guide them in this real formative stage to become the next best version of themselves? What parts of your program build on that?
Wow. That's a pretty deep question.
Yes.
I think really, as I'm listening to you, and if I'm on, I think it goes back to things I already kind of said. I think it's a combination of all that we do with the curriculum and the sequencing and the not enabling and the constructive criticism, coaching them up, and then positive praise, and just knowing that you care about them. All of those things that they know that you care about them and you want them to be successful.
What I know
about and energy.
Yeah, what I know about you is that you have been able to navigate demanding versus demeaning. And I struggled with that. If you want transparency, I struggled with falling into demeaning. And how have you navigated that? How have you navigated demanding, a pretty high standard, but not allowing it to become demeaning? Are there things that you think about, or words that you use or don't use? Are there ways you approach kids? Any thoughts like that to help a coach like myself that struggled with that?
I think a lot of it's preparation, don't you think? For me, it's the idea that you spend so much time organizing and breaking things down and having your program already set up that you then can focus on the athlete or the student, because we've got more than athletes, and it's a combination. Our school is really a melting pot. It's awesome. I mean, I would not have it I would never have a football only weightlifting class. I would never do that. For us, it's for us, because you get a girls basketball player and a wrestler and a non-athlete and a non-athlete guy and a non-athlete girl and a football player and whatever other sports, swimming, diving, and you bring all those kids together underneath one roof, underneath the structure that we have here, with a culture that we've created, and the successes that they have overall individually, the successes then that they have collectively together as a team. That the whole idea of the blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into the weight room, the support that those non-athletes, those other sport athletes that have never maybe gone to a lacrosse game or to a swim meet or to whatever sport it is, they now go and watch those other athletes perform and cheer for them and root for them, and what that does for the culture of our whole entire school. It's amazing. I mean, it's life changing. It really is. It's school changing. Now we talk about academics, the 3 A's: academics, arts, and athletics. You and I know that if your athletics are successful, you start off with a successful fall program, specifically football in the beginning, what that does to the academics and what that does to the culture of your school that year. I know we play a big part of that, what we do here in the weight room at East Kentwood High School. I know we do. I'll tell kids all the time, let's say you're playing travel baseball. And I'd say to Gary, there's 1,000 other guys like you playing travel baseball. What are you doing to separate yourself? And I said, I've got the answer. It's what we do at East Kentwood. It's what we do here in the weight room. Because those 1,000 other guys aren't putting the time in that you're doing. That's how you become different. That's how you get that trump card, that ace in the hole. That's that missing piece to the puzzle. And that in itself is going to give you the advantage. That in itself gives our kids the advantage here, not only just in sports, but in life in general. So I think it goes back to our structure and what we do and the successes that our kids have. The biggest thing for me that tells us that we've created such a unique environment is the first day of Christmas vacation. When everybody should be, at the holidays, they should be out doing their thing. We open the weight room and we'll have 100, 150 kids that come back here on that Monday. And their kids that graduated 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago that come back because they still want to be a part of what they've created, or what they've been able to do. Yeah. And there's not a lot of weightlifting that goes on during that time frame. It's hugs and high fives. But I tell you what, that's probably my favorite time for the whole entire year because of the relationships we developed in here 20 years ago, and we're still developing now, 20 years later.
I love that. That's a great way to finish that. Well, Coach, the floor is going to be yours here. We always finish with our finisher for our coaches to maybe level us up, challenge us up as coaches and as a profession of areas that we might be able to improve or praise. Look at things that we're doing really well over a period of time as you've spanned some decades of coaching now, and you also travel and you see it at a wide range, and maybe share with us what you see from a profession standpoint now. Not necessarily personal to your program, but maybe personal to the profession that you're a part of. And maybe share with us for 5-10 minutes some of that. And then we'll share some of your connections if you want to share some of your email and some stuff like that. And I know you got a great social media following that you might be able to pick up. We'll end with that. And but the floor is yours.
Wow. That one's a big one too. I think for me, probably, as bad as social media can take a hit, be a negative. I think social media has been amazing to see what all the young coaches are doing now, how they're using that as a way to, to give back to others. So I love getting on there watching people. I think it's really good. However, at the same time, I think sometimes we've gotten away from the basics. We see some latest and greatest fads and those things. And I guess I caution some of the young coaches on that. Stick to our basics. Stick to the things that have gotten us to where we are. Not everybody has to use kettlebells and whatever some of those fancy new tools are that are out there, the bamboo bars and those things. Stick to some of our basics, and the rest of it will take care of itself. I just think we've gotten away from some of those things and have gone to maybe the thing that they see, the quick sell where it's somebody trying to make $1. Make sure that it fits in your programming. The other thing that I think is, don't try to change your philosophy. As I've traveled around, the thing that I learned early on, and I did this as a coach. It wasn't, and I didn't do it as a strength coach, but I did it when I was coaching football. But specifically when I was a basketball coach, I would go and watch, a Bobby Knight, or I'd go watch Tom Izzo, and you'd go and watch and you'd sit there and say, oh, and I'd take all those notes and I'd come back and I think, I'm going to wholesale sub that out and I'm going to try to do it Tom Izzo does, or whatever that coach does that I went and saw. And I was changing things early on in my career because that's what they did. And the thing that I learned is you've got to figure out what you do best, what you believe in. And so I took bits and pieces from all of my different mentors in coaching, specifically coaching early on in the sports aspect of it. I looked at stuff. This is what I like, what I didn't like. But the don't like is still pretty good because I know that I'm not going to do that again. There's a reason why I'm not going to do it. But there's also a reason why I'm going to do it. Then I'd go to another coach and do the same thing. I would look and find the thing that I liked and how it fit my philosophy for what I wanted to do as a coach. If I was going to be an up-tempo, 94 feet on offense, 94 feet on defense, I was going to, whatever it was, I was going to find those little pieces that worked well for me as a basketball coach and developed my program. When I really, took that next step into strength and conditioning, I'd made enough mistakes as a basketball coach that I knew I wasn't going to do that as a strength coach. So when I went and traveled and I watched you strength train, I was taking my notes, but when I bring my notes back, it would be, how does this fit into what I believe? How can it help me? Is it a verbal cue? Is it a new drill? Is it a motivational quote? Sometimes I might watch a coach and go, that I'm not going to do, like, that's not what I'm going to do. I can't, maybe it was, I can't do that. Or maybe it was, I'm not going to do that because I don't believe in it. I don't think it's science-based. I don't think it's right. Sometimes it was affirmation that what we were doing was right on point, that we were at the forefront of a strength program. So I would encourage the young coaches, men and women, that are in the strength and conditioning business, to hone in on what their philosophy is and realize that as they go, bring those pieces in to help strengthen their philosophy, and don't think they've got to change everything out because a certain coach does it a certain way and they've been super, super successful. Well, they might be super, super successful because, as a coach once told me, he said, I must coach talent. Coaching talent makes me a much better coach. And, sometimes you go to theyose places and, they've just got some really good athletes, and it doesn't matter what they do, they're going to be successful. So that's probably the biggest advice I can give them out there, because I made enough mistakes early on trying to do that. But through that basketball era, it helped me to understand that when I got into this profession and really, really tried to take it to a new level, that I wasn't going to let that mistake happen with me in the weight room.
Yeah, outstanding, man. A great answer, great soapbox speech at the end there, man. I love it. Tied everything in really, really well. Well, Coach, I know you're probably going to garner a ton of interest, so I'll get information that you want to share, and we'll put it with the podcast so people can see it and won't have to remember. But if you want to share with them a couple pieces of where they can see a bit of what you guys do, I know that was helpful for me when you shared that with me. That would be outstanding. If you want to finish with that, and then I'll wrap us up.
Sounds good. So if you go to Marty, Marty _ Martens, Marte, E as in Edward, NS 82, Marty _ Martens 82. That's on Twitter. I haven't got to Instagram yet. Everybody tells me I need to get to Instagram. I'll get there. That's the Twitter. There's also East Kentwood High School Advanced PE. That's a Facebook page that we have. And so, I'll videotape, our clusters of our primers, and I'll videotape the components of our linear speed days of what we're doing, as well as all the stuff that I do with college recruiting, because I take our kids. We've got some pretty good dudes here. And so I started doing that about 6 years ago. So you'll get a chance to, if you get on, you'll get a chance to see some good video of what we do. My email is marty.martens@kentwoodps.org. And I know Coach will share all that with you, but hit me up anytime. I also get a unique opportunity. I kind of mentioned I travel around the country, and I have a 3-part series that I do on unification. Each of them it's like 5+ hours of a clinic. So part 1 is, we'll call it the overview. I go to a school and they have all of their what we call their stakeholders or shareholders there, and we give an overview of A to Z. I have like a 300-page PowerPoint with video and all sorts of stuff. And then part 2 is the technique clinic, which is about 5 hours. And both of them are, and this one's more specific to coaches and the people that are going to run their weight room. So we take everything from A to Z and we break it down. This is how we do it at East Kentwood. I don't know how you're going to do it at your school, but this is how we do it at our school. And it's a combination of classroom, field house, classroom, weight room, back to a classroom. And then the third one, which is about 3 hours, is kind of a cleanup. Go back in and say, watch me for a day. Tell me what you like, what we could do better. How do we do this? So the coolest one is I went out to, it was Hug High School in Reno, Nevada. 2 springs ago, and I did part 1 and part 2 on the exact same day. It started at about 8 in the morning. We got done at 6 in the afternoon, and I think we could have kept going 4 or 5 more hours. I love it. I have a blast. I love my job. I love doing what we do. You know, it's all about building relationships, Gary. You know, when we leave this earth, to me, it's all about the people's lives that we've touched, the people's lives that have touched us. And man, it's there's nothing better. I know you and I have had an opportunity to do that with lots of young people, and it doesn't get much better than this.
No, sir. No, sir. Blessed to be a part of it. And I've always said I'm proud, more than proud to be part of our profession, but even more proud to be brothers with the people that call it their profession, right? So it's policies and procedures don't come close to the people and the passion of the profession. So it is.
Exactly.
Thank you again, Coach. Can't wait to see you in person and get past this virtual stuff.
Absolutely. I'm ready.